Tonight, the story of one lone hospital accountant from Whitefish, Montana, James Alderson, who blew the whistle on the hospital giant Columbia HCA for allegedly cooking their books. That company's stunning rise is already a business world legend. From just 2 Texas hospitals, Columbia catapulted in a few short years into the world's biggest hospital chain. It made quick millions for Wall Street and revolutionized the hospital industry. And then suddenly the party ended. Indictments followed. The company's top management was fired. Hospitals were sold off. And now Columbia HCA and its former corporate cousin Quorum Health face fines and restitution of possibly $1 billion for allegedly cheating Medicare. This is the accountant, Jim Alderson, who blew the whistle on what may become the biggest Medicare fraud case ever. His attorney is Stephen Marr, a former federal prosecutor in San Francisco.
In a simple sentence, what's this case about?
This case is about good old-fashioned fraud, lying for money. The largest healthcare providers in the country lied to the government and got reimbursement they weren't entitled to out of the Medicare program.
This is not a case of hospitals overbilling patients for surgery or for medicine. It's about hospitals overbilling the U.S. government for the overall cost of caring for Medicare patients, from building costs to nursing care. And 3 months ago, that's exactly what the Justice Department accused Columbia HCA and Quorum Health of doing, looting the Medicare program for more than a decade by padding their expenses on what are known as Medicare cost reports.
This was not a case of honest disagreements about gray areas. This is a case about systematic and persistent false claims submitted to the government year after year over the course of hundreds of hospitals.
Nicholas Bordeaux, after seeing what Alderson had uncovered, agreed that some of these accounting methods appeared suspicious.
Didn't the hospitals worry they'd get caught?
Apparently not. They took action to keep the documents confidential.
What do you mean?
They would stamp them confidential, do not discuss, or release to Medicare auditors. When I saw that, I was just incensed. I was angry, because there's no such thing as a confidential document from a Medicare auditor.
Congressman Pete Stark, a California Democrat, is astonished that hospitals might be using 2 sets of books.
Hospitals are defending this practice as being common in the industry, and they say there's simply nothing wrong with it.
Well, I suppose there's nothing wrong with it if they don't do anything with the 2nd and 3rd and 4th set of books, if they're doing it for practice. The fact is there's one way to keep a set of books. That's the right way, according to the law, reporting it straight up. If they're unsure, they can come and ask. They can get professional advice. But to keep 2 sets of books on the theory that they'll try the inflated set to collect and fall back to the honest set if they get caught is a crime.
Government subpoenas were served, and later search warrants were executed on dozens of hospitals across the country. But the investigation took years, and the accounting methods that Alderson first revealed began to persuade federal investigators that they just might corral the biggest hospital corporation of all, Columbia HCA. For years, that company had seemed untouchable, despite mounting anger in many communities that Columbia HCA seemed to care more about profits than medicine.
The philosophy of Columbia HCA was to maximize profit at every turn. And people were given individual goals on note cards. Their promotions depended on it. Their bonuses depended on it.
Columbia HCA also fostered resentment for taking over non-profit hospitals, which had been built with the support of volunteers and tax exemptions.
They were often financing those acquisitions by cheating the government, by allowing Medicare to pick up part of the costs. And that's what this case is about.
Today, the first indictment.
As the government's probe intensified, Columbia's top management was ousted. But for Jim Alderson, the biggest moment came just 3 months ago when the U.S. Justice Department decided there was indeed substantial evidence of fraud by Columbia HCA and Quorum. Of course, we wanted to talk to Quorum and Columbia HCA about allegations that they'd engaged in fraud, but neither would appear on camera.